It is time for the NFL Daily Mock Draft with Tom Downey. Pumped to get into this one. So let's start. We're going to go 1 to 10. People go 10 to 1. No, we go in order here.
We go in order here.
We go in order here.
Any other way.
All right, let's start at number 1. They're taking the kid from Manhattan Beach, the Cleveland Browns. We'll select Josh Rosen, the quarterback from UCLA.
Rosen looks pretty good this year. I've been very impressed by the way he's played. It was a little iffy at times in the year with his arm strength. He had the surgery. It's come along nicely. I think the Browns are very high on him. I think Hugh Jackson loves him. So if Hugh Jackson's still there, I think Rosen's the guy at number 1. If the Browns end up picking at number 1, that means they won like what, 1 or 2, 0-1 games, somewhere in that range. At that point, I don't stick to Sean Kaiser, even though I like Kaiser quite a bit. I think if that's what we end up seeing happening, and then Josh Rosen has to be, or a quarterback in general, has to be the first overall pick.
Definitely has to be for sure. But I do want to say this before we move on from Josh Rosen. A lot of people talk about his strengths, Tom. For the people at home, name me Josh Rosen's top weakness.
It's, I think the biggest concerns for NFL teams are going to be some of the off-the-field stuff. There's been some buzz that he's not beloved by his teammates, that people didn't go to his birthday party.
Don't. But I will say this, we've had that rumor, but a lot of his teammates over the past couple weeks on Twitter have come out in his defense.
So, I think it might have been a case where Rosen's matured. Like, I think that's probably where we're at. The truth lies somewhere in the middle, that Rosen, look, when you're a high school kid, I mean, he
was also the number 1 quarterback
think of Jimmy Clausen.
Country. Yeah.
Like your ego can get a little bit out of control, and I think that Rosen has matured. So the meetings, the interviews are going to be very important for him. From what I've been told, he's going to be fine.
Yeah. And the last thing before we move on, I will say this: college teams are massive. You could admit, what if a reporter has like 1 or 2 guys on a UCLA football team? That's probably what, 80+ kids. And if a couple of them don't like him, that doesn't mean the entire team hates him.
And I'll throw this out there as well. NFL and every team is going to have some level of disagreement. You're not going to get along with 50 alpha males.
Yes,
like that just doesn't work. So there's always going to be some semblance of disagreement, and that's where it becomes on the individual players to move past whatever issues they have with teammates, and for the coaching staff to get their stuff together. So I'm not too concerned here with Josh Rosen. I'm a big fan of his. I'm a big fan of Josh Rosen as well. I'm also a big fan of the guy who we have at number 2 going to the New York Football Giants. It is time for Eli Manning to maybe take a seat on the retirement bench. Sam Darnold, number 2. I'll give you guys a hint. Davis Webb is not the future.
Oh, come on, man.
No,
not going to give him a chance?
Stop. No, I'm not going to give him a chance. I think Darnold, there's a good chance that Darnold ends up going home. Or not going home. He stays at USC, doesn't go pro, and elects to give himself another year of development.
He should.
Look, Darnold, he's got some, I don't know, maybe Jameis Winston is a decent comp in terms of the way he played this year, where there were too many turnovers. His release is a little loopy, but I think Darnold has the upside to be a franchise quarterback, and if that's the case, you're going to go early in the NFL draft.
For me with Sam Darnold,
he checks off most of the boxes NFL teams are looking for.
For me with Sam Darnold, it's just that he is so, I kind of, like a lot of athletes, and especially when it comes to basketball players, but keep this with football players, some of them just have so much talent in their body, but they just don't know what to do with it yet. So they revert back to going to their athleticism, trying to make plays with their body instead of with fundamentals. That's kind of what I think Sam Darnold's promise. I think he needs 1 more year of development. I will say this, though.
My question is, can you turn down number 2 overall pick, or at least top 5, let's just put it that way, and a year of NFL development versus a year of college development?
But the thing is,
they're different.
But it is different. But at the same time, there are plus and minuses that, because sometimes quarterbacks will go back to college and develop a lot, or they'll go back to college like Matt Barkley did and regress seriously. I will say this for the people at home before we move on here, and this is more of a personal thing. I think you agree with this too. Ladies and gentlemen, if you read any mock draft that doesn't have Josh Rosen and Sam Darnold as the number 1, number 2 picks, close it instantly. Unless Sam Darnold announces that he's not coming out. Close it.
Unless they're projecting Darnold not going pro.
Yes, correct. If Sam Darnold doesn't end up going pro, or they think he won't, that's fine.
And
but
again, everything can change.
That's very true. We'll see what goes on the record. But please, just read the mock drafts to have them going 1 and 2. I know Tom Downey's will certainly have him if Sam Darnold comes out. All right, let's move into number 3 here. The Indianapolis Colts taking, can we call him a generational guard prospect in Quenton Nelson, the guard from Notre Dame?
I don't know if that's a thing.
Well, it was a thing, because remember, we did have 2 of them a couple years ago. Jonathan Cooper, one of them, and then Chance Warmack, and both of them sucked.
Yeah, so maybe that's argument why there isn't one.
Yeah, there you go.
The Colts are an interesting spot here because they can go a bunch of different directions. They can go offensive line. I think they can go Saquon Barkley. They could definitely go edge rusher with a guy like Bradley Chubb. But when it comes to Quenton Nelson, I don't think the Colts are in terrible shape at edge rusher. They can get by with their current guys. They can get someone later.
Jamal Shear's been solid this year.
Quenton Nelson can come in day one and be a plug-and-play borderline all-pro offensive guard in the mode of a Zach Martin or Brandon Schreff. So I love the fit. It's definitely early for a guard, but think of it this way. The Colts are drafting the best offensive lineman. Isn't the best offensive lineman worth a top 5 pick in most drafts?
Oh, well, I totally agree.
So it's not a sexy pick. It's not the edge rusher. I like Nelson here. I think Colts and the Broncos, if they end up picking high, a couple of teams, are great fits for Quenton Nelson.
Argument to be made also maybe for Minkah Fitzpatrick, pairing him with Quincy Nelson, the rookie who's had a decent past couple games, along with Malik Hooker coming off that free safety.
Interesting.
Or that ACL position at free safety.
I don't know if Fitzpatrick is going to play free safety or corner.
Okay.
And I think that if it's corner, I think that makes sense. I think the Colts, though, the value's there for Fitzpatrick, but I think they can fill a bigger need and still get good value.
Okay.
And wait on Fitzpatrick and get a corner later on. It's a decent cornerback class.
All right. Cool. Let's move to number 4. We got the San Francisco 49ers. Oh, man. What an offense this is going to be if they get Saquon Barkley, who Tom Downey is mocking them to. Look, you know, there are concerns, I think, from many NFL front offices. One, about taking a running back, you know, at this level. But Ezekiel Elliott did help that. But
I am personally not a big fan of it.
Is him running between the tackles a concern in the NFL? He didn't have fantastic success this year. He's amazing in open field. We know that, but running between the tackles, he did struggle this year.
That's actually, I think, my biggest pet peeve with Barkley is that he had a tendency to bounce things out wide too much and play out of structure.
He always tries to hit the home run.
Which is fine. Like I don't mind my halfback doing that when he can do it. I actually don't know if the Niners would take Barkley because Shanahan tends to prefer not first-round draft picks from what we've seen in years past. And I actually almost had this as a trade down. Like, yeah, I thought we were getting too complicated. I think there's a team who ended up getting the guy that they wanted anyway in this mock draft. I think that the Niners are a prime trade-down candidate, accumulate more draft assets.
I would love to see them trade down to like number 10 or number 11 and take Calvin Ridley. I think that'd be a great fit. They need someone on the outside that can make moves.
I think that's kind of early for any receiver. The receivers are not good this year, and we'll talk more about that with a future pick as well.
Very true. All right, let's move into number 5 here, the Cleveland Browns. I love this pick. I think this might be maybe the best pick that we've mocked so far. Minkah Fitzpatrick, the DB from Alabama. One of the most versatile defensive backs that we've seen come out of college. Imagine if Jabril Peppers was actually good, and that's what Minkah Fitzpatrick is. This dude is special. You can put him anywhere in the secondary. I think he's a perfect fit. They need someone like him in that secondary.
In the end, I think Fitzpatrick plays free safety or he plays cornerback, and either one fills a need.
I think he plays both.
He could be kind of like the move around guy. I think in the end for Fitzpatrick, he fits the Browns' needs in both spots. He can be a free safety. They can get Jabril Peppers out of that free safety spot. He is not a free safety. He is a strong safety. He's playing out positions and he struggled. Or he can go be a big, long, lanky corner, which I think more NFL teams are coveting. I think Fitzpatrick in Cleveland is a great fit. This pick, you see the asterisk coming from the Houston Texans. I think for a good portion of the year, I'm going to keep mocking Fitzpatrick and the Browns. I think they're a fantastic match.
I think they'll match up really well. You know, you look at the AFC North, you look around, they got to cover Antonio Brown, Martavis Bryant, A.J. Green. Maybe when they actually let John Ross out of jail, the Bengals jail, that they'll actually let him play. I think Minkah Fitzpatrick would be a great pick. Let's summarize 1 through 5. We got the Browns taking Rosen and then Fitzpatrick at 1 and 5. Then in the middle, we got Darnold, Quenton Nelson, and Saquon Barkley sandwiched in the middle of the 2 Browns pick. By the way, they did, as you mentioned, they get that number 5 pick because they had the Houston Texans pick from not taking Deshaun Watson last year, which was stupid.
John Dorsey may have inaccurately said that that Sashi Brown left him with no real players. He has left him with a cornucopia of draft picks.
Yes, he has.
An incredible group.
I guarantee you he wishes that he left him with Deshaun Watson instead of the number 5 pick. But hey, that's just me. That's just me. We'll see. All right, let's move into number 6 here, Tom. Another great pick with the Chicago Bears taking Connor Williams, the offensive tackle from Texas. Now, I want to bring this up to you, Tom. It's been a couple years now since we've had a true elite tackle prospect. Is Connor Williams that guy?
Had he been healthy all year and showed what we saw in his sophomore tape, yeah, I think he would have been. I think that Williams was banged up this year. He was in a new scheme. He never quite got into a groove. He still has shown the flashes of being a dynamic left tackle in terms of offensive lineman. I think he's a heck of a prospect. I like what I see in Uncle Williams. He's my top tackle this year. I don't know if NFL teams are going to feel the same way. I think the Bears are actually in a pretty good spot in terms of rebuilding. The addition of Williams, you don't often get a chance to draft a true left tackle. If you're a team like the Bears, Charles Leno's played very well. I think he'd be better at right tackle, plug Connor in at left tackle. That's a really good 1-2 punch there.
And it's also a great combo because not only do they get, because he's great in the pass coverage, but he's also great in the run game. So they get a guy who can cover Trubisky's blind side, and they also give someone another good road grader on the left side for Tariq Cohen and Jordan Howard, which they're trying to build the offense around.
Yeah, and I think that the Bears' biggest need by far is receiver.
Yes, for sure.
I do not believe there are any worth taking the top 10.
And
it's Courtland Sutton, Calvin Ridley. They're not.
I think this is a good wide receiver class late. For instance, Anthony Miller, the wide receiver from Memphis, might be the best wide receiver in this class. You might be able to get him in the 3rd round, maybe.
There are a lot of nice number 2s, low-end 1s, and slot guys. Not a guy you spend a top 10 draft pick on. If I'm the Bears, my offseason number 1 wish list is so easy. I am going out and I am throwing money at Jarvis Landry.
Yeah,
he is perfect for Mitchell Trubisky. Trubisky isn't going to be a guy that chucks it downfield 20 yards beyond the line of scrimmage 40 times a game. That's not who he is. He is a shorter passer guy. You put him with Jarvis Landry, he's going to thrive.
Agreed. All right, let's move into number 7 here. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking Bradley Chubb, the DM from NC State. There might not be a team outside of the Browns with more obvious needed quarterback than the Buccaneers have at defensive end. You have them taking the top guy in this draft.
They got to get more edge rushers. Noah Spence has not become the guy they thought he could be. He's been banged up, and really, they just don't have enough pass rushers in general. Chubb, this I think is a little low for him overall. I think he ends up going higher, maybe because the Bucs end up losing more games, but I think the Colts, maybe even a team like the Bears or the Niners could still consider him. He's the best edge rusher in this year's class. He's not Myles Garrett, but Chubb's a heck of a player.
Could you see them maybe reach for Derwin James, get a safety? Boy, do they need one.
Maybe. I don't know what we're going to see with Derwin James. I think there might be a little bit of Jabril Peppers in his game right now, where he hasn't been as good as he was in his true freshman year. I like Derwin James a lot. He's also not a free safety, and I think we'll see him slide a little bit as a more of an in-the-box guy. I don't know if he'd be the best fit, but I mean, it's definitely an option. Okay. It's definitely an option. I think it's a guy the Bucs will consider. All
right, let's move into number 8 here, the Denver Broncos. You have to take Roquan Smith, the linebacker from Georgia. Tom, maybe this year that people will actually take the best linebacker in the class from SEC, and I think they will because everyone completely swung and missed on Reuben Foster, who's been one of the best linebackers in football this year. Roquan Smith has that kind of potential.
I don't think this is the
special player.
This is not the Broncos' biggest need, but it could be if they lose Todd Davis in free agency, because if he walks, then they've got Brandon Marshall, who's had a bit of a down year, and they're a little thin at that spot. Smith gives them an instant impact at inside linebacker. I
also think if you look at the talent that they have all around the rest of the team, corner's solid, the defensive line is great, the offensive line is good enough. They obviously have a great 1-2 punch of wide receiver. I believe Emmanuel Sanders is a free agent at the end of the year, or does he have one more year on his contract?
At least one more year.
Yeah, at least one more year in his contract. So all they really need is quarterback. At that point, you might just take the best player available. I think Roquan Smith qualifies as that.
They're going to look offensive line. We had them in Quenton Nelson in last week's mock when they were higher ranked. Again, this is up to today, so they have the 5-9 record, so they're below all the 4-9 teams here. I think with Denver, quarterback's going to be an option too, but I wouldn't be surprised if they chased a bigger name in free agency.
Bigger name free agency. Like it. All right, let's move into number 9, the Cincinnati Bengals. Tom, will they finally take a tackle? Will they finally take a tackle?
Well, it's not taking a tackle.
Orlando Brown.
They got to take a good tackle because they took Jake Fisher in the second round a couple years ago. He has been banged up. I don't know what his future holds. They took Cedric Abuya. He has been a bust. They need 2 new offensive tackles. So go out and add Orlando Brown. He is a mountain of a man. He's, I think, maybe a more athletic Andre Smith. Maybe that's who he could end up being. I haven't finished my comp or my
I just like watching him move in the run game.
Huge.
Look, I understand that Oklahoma is a great offense, but you're not going to convince me that Rodney Anderson is some special talent. They ran behind Orlando Brown so much this year. He was incredible.
The biggest thing for Brown is proving that he is going to be able to move in the NFL because he's got the size, but is he too big? Is he too slow? I think Eric Flowers could be another player comp for him.
Oh, no.
He's been better this year.
He has.
Flowers has maybe turned a corner.
I also think one of the big issues with Eric Flowers, dude, the guy came into the NFL at like 20 years old. Just give him a little bit of time. All right, Tom, I thank you so much for this. This makes me so happy despite the fact that he's going to the Jets. At number 10, ladies and gentlemen, it's Baker Mayfield. Tom, I would kiss you but that'd be kind of weird.
Yeah, it would be a little weird there. Look, I think that Baker Mayfield's going to go in round 1. I hope he might be quarterback 1 for me when it's all said and done. Outside of the size, I mean, what's the knock on Baker Mayfield? He is prolific at Oklahoma. Maybe he needs some more work under center. When has that been an issue as of late for NFL teams? I think Baker is going to have a bright success in the NFL. I know he didn't have the size. The hand size could be a concern for me going forward, but he's a playmaker. He is great out of the system, but also within the system. He makes plays within the Oklahoma system. I think he's going to have a bright NFL future. I think the size concerns will knock him down, though, in the NFL
Can I ask you a difficult on-the-spot question?
Sure. I'll try and answer it.
Who is Baker Mayfield's NFL comp that isn't Russell Wilson?
It's Drew Brees.
Interesting.
And I'm talking about college Drew Brees.
Okay.
I'm not talking about current NFL Drew Brees. Go back and look at even just Drew Brees highlights from Purdue. He ran a lot. Like, he didn't really run a ton in the NFL, especially in the last, decade or so. He wasn't the same quarterback, but he ran quite a bit at Purdue. You got the same size issues there. I think Baker Mayfield's got the arm strength. I think he definitely has the accuracy. I wasn't as bullish on Mayfield because I was a little concerned, like, oh, he was a product of having 3 high NFL draft picks. This year, Baker Mayfield took a lot of guys that no one had ever heard of and made them look great.
Marquise Brown, he turned maybe into a second-round pick.
Baker Mayfield elevated the level of play from those around him, and that's what I want to see in my quarterback. And I think Baker Mayfield, out of anyone in this year's class, did that the best.
All right, let's go into a little summary here. Number 1 and number 5, we got the Browns taking Rosen and Fitzpatrick and peanut butter jelly sandwiched in between those guys. You got Sam Darnold to the Giants, Quenton Nelson to the Colts, Saquon Barkley to the 49ers, and 6 through 10 we got Connor Williams, Bradley Chubb, Roquan Smith, Orlando Brown, and then Baker Mayfield, the crotch grab king himself, going to the New York Jets. Let's bring in a little reaction poll here for the people at home. Give us a heart for Sam Darnold. Give us a wow face for Josh Rosen, a laughing face for Baker Mayfield, and a thumbs up for someone else. Who is the best quarterback in this year's draft? Tom, I'm still going to give it to Sam Darnold.
I have not solidified any of my film watching. I still got quite a few games to go through for each of these guys, but early on, I am actually leaning toward Rosen or Mayfield. I do want to see what Mayfield, how he actually measures it in terms of height and hand size. If he's got small hands, he's going to fumble more. You can just ask Aaron Rodgers that actually is a thing. But I like what I've seen out of Baker Mayfield. I like what I've seen out of Rosen. I think all 3 of those guys are going to be pretty highly ranked on my quarterback board.